this is what a Rainbow Six or Ghost Recon movie would look like. Hmm. Hello, everyone. Terrence here with Hollywood Already Did It. If you haven't already, go ahead, like, share, subscribe to the channel, ring that bell below. Anytime we have something, you'll be the first to know. So let me say this off rip. I have absolutely no connection to this book, the IP, apparently from what I hear, neither does this movie, but I just want to go let you guys know that I am going in this as strictly a film goer, not as somebody who has any deep connection to the IP. I also am aware that the character in the book is not African American, so there's a racial change that has occurred that I don't think bothers anybody. Nobody seems to have an issue with it. I just wish that if they are going to change the character for whatever reason they do, other than like Michael said, I want to do that property. I would just wish that they would lean in a little bit more into the blackness of it all, as far as why there should be a reason as to why we changed the character, other than we just did it because casting wise. Because then you change a lot of other characters and make everyone else in his world African American. So there should just be a basis of why that change occurs to just go in with the rest of the story. So let's go in with some of the goods. Michael B. Jordan is clearly a physically imposing man. When he does something physical, you believe it. And this movie gives him an action vehicle, and he runs with it and does a very good job with it. I just wish the movie gave more of an emotional weight and a little bit more emotional substance for John to play with. That's not anything to knock on Jordan, because Jordan, we've seen in Creed, he's capable of doing the emotional weight and the emotional heft. There's a choice from the director in the script that we're going to hit home why this revenge plot takes place, and other than a couple of little dream sequences or flashbacks here and there, we're going to basically ignore that to become a run-of-the-mill, straight-up revenge flick, for better or for worse. This movie is very generic and by the books. You could palette swap this from any other revenge flick from the 90s and 2000s and have just a one-to-one. There's nothing new that happens here, and then there's a twist in the third act that I'm using air quotes for, because you see it coming a mile away. If you've seen any other these other action revenge films, it's pretty much painted on the wall. Like, this is going to happen here, and then this is going to happen, and then the structure is going to get to this point. That's how this movie operates. And what's crazy is, in fact, I was thinking the whole time while watching, as beloved as this series is, and I hear that especially this book in particular is one of the better books ever to exist in Tom Clancy's catalog. But I was sitting there the whole time like, the Has Fallen series handles this much better than anything that I'm seeing right now. And I don't even think that Has Fallen series as a whole is great, but it's just a better vehicle from start to finish, each of those, than this film is, which is bizarre considering I think how highly regarded this franchise and this character of John Walker / Clark truly is. Now, not all is lost with this film. I think there are some very key and impactful action sequences. I think the airplane sequence when it breaks apart and go underwater and all that, I think that looks great. I think seeing John sort of go in the deep end and to get information and blatantly set a car on fire in public to get his information, kudos. There's a pretty cool action sequence. You get to see how ripped Michael is, and he takes his shirt off. He's like, I mean, how much he's thinking about what's about to happen so he can stay alive long enough for someone to get him out of prison. It's all great. My issue is nothing rises or falls in this movie. There are no highs, there are no lows. It stays one note dour and sort of on an even keel the entire time. There are no highs. When you do some action or suspenseful thrills, maybe because I'm not emotionally connected to anything or have any emotional weight, like I said earlier, with anything, that I don't, other than going through the routine to watch the action happens, the action never feels like I'm emotionally invested or connected to it. So whereas something like Mission Impossible or even Extraction, because I'll go off Mission Impossible, a huge theatrical flick, but let's take something like Extraction with Chris Hemsworth. Those moments felt a little bit more visceral and integral because I felt more attached to that character than I did anything that John had with this. And I think those films are a little bit more comparable since they're both streaming releases of action properties. But when you have something where you don't have any emotional connection and it is dour and one note, and you it is run of the mill. At the very least, you could be fun, and it isn't. So it becomes more of an exercise and a chore to watch than it is something that you're entertainingly watching. I also need to say this. I'm 100% for diverse casting and inclusivity and changing everything. I think it is very important. And I think Jodie Turner-Smith is a stunning woman and should be in this film. However, you're taking some liberties. There are, as of the date of this recording, no U.S. Navy SEALs that are women, which is a completely separate conversation. It's just get your shit together. But because of that, to put one into this film, you would need to do a lot more legwork, I think, script-wise, to make me understand that her character is big enough and badass enough and important enough that she did all the things possible to be I would arguably have to still think, the first woman, and then the first woman of color for sure, in the U.S. Navy SEALs. But for us to not even mention it and show it to just be matter of fact, it's cool. I get why you do it, but that's a big leap of faith from just the way that military works in real life, and for you to try to place this movie in so much realism, I think that's something that needs to be a little bit further tweaked on and explained. Because I think Jodie does fine. It's whatever, but it felt more like, hey, I'm going through this script. Shit, we killed the only woman that actually existed in the script. Throw in another one, as opposed to fleshing out Karen and giving her a big enough story or a big enough purpose to be there. Because that's a pretty big, hey, a female U.S. Navy SEAL, that's different. Can we further expound upon that? Instead, we do some Ghost Recon Rainbow Six action sequences, which, don't get me wrong, I like that because it gave me my wheels started turning like, ooh, we can do a Rainbow Six movie or we can do a Ghost Recon movie. It's just that from what I've heard from Without Remorse and from what the rest of these John Clark books are, there's a lot more of an emotional, just like gut punch with these. And for us to not get that with anyone just feels nah. All in all, this isn't the worst thing I've seen, but I definitely think that there are better things and better shows that I could have been watching on my Saturday night than spending time with this. So on my scale of once is enough, play it again, Sam, or give me a time stone so I never have to think about this film again. Give me a time stone so I never have to think about this film again. And it's not because I think this is terrible that I need it scrubbed from my memory, but once I hit stop on this recording, I will never think about this movie again. And I think that sucks for something that I think having an African-American lead in a pretty big, from what I hear, action property would be cool. And it's clear that they're planting seeds to continue on. It's just, I don't need to, which is unfortunate because I think Michael B. Jordan is clearly capable of leading an action vehicle. I just don't think this is the series to do so. So back to Creed we go. What did you guys think of Without Remorse? Go ahead and leave your comments in the comments below. If you haven't already, you can follow us on Twitter at HollywoodADI. You can hit us up on email at HollywoodAlreadyDidIt@gmail.com. We also have a podcast by the same name that's on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that plays podcasts. We're there. We just did a look at the franchise of Mortal Kombat with the new Mortal Kombat release, so you can find that here in the YouTube channel or anywhere that podcasts are. But like always, I got my ticket. You got yours.